Welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam, and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for 37 years. And I should have, for my New Year's resolution, said that I wanted to do something I had never done before, because I would already have made that. I would already have fulfilled that resolution, because I have now been invited to participate in a clinical trial, and I have never done that before for MS for all the years that I've had MS. But I think I told you before that my neurology team is from Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon. And because they are a university, they don't just provide medical services, they teach. And they train doctors. I think I told you that when I was just down there, I talked about the problems I've been having with fatigue. And my neurologist apparently is involved in this study, and she discussed it with the study team members and then had the coordinator reach out to me to invite me to be part of the study. And after I looked over the information and talked with my husband, I said, yeah, I would love to do that. The reason I had to discuss it with my husband, by the way, is that I live about 2 hours away from Portland, Oregon. So for us to make the trips that are required for the study, we needed to be sure that we were up for doing that, because that's a long way and a lot of gas to use. They do pay a small stipend, but I'll tell you what, I don't even think it would buy 1 tank of gas with the price these days. I'll show you a little bit more so I can tell you some of the things that appealed to me about it. So let's take a look at it. Well, here is the flyer that was created for the study, and it's called MitoQ for Fatigue in Multiple Sclerosis, a placebo-controlled trial. MitoQ might be a trade name, but the study is basically about a supplement you can buy over the counter right now, which would be CoQ10. Here, by the way, is some information on CoQ10 that I pulled from WebMD, and I will link to this in the description below. But as you can see, CoQ10 is a nutrient that occurs naturally in the body, and it's also in many foods that we eat. And it's an antioxidant which protects cells from damage and plays an important part in metabolism. So there's a lot of reasons why people already are taking CoQ10 as a dietary supplement. And I think many of us have taken CoQ10, or maybe you still do. But they're looking at this specifically for controlling fatigue in multiple sclerosis, as you can see here. And the purpose of the study, learning about an investigational dietary supplement that may help decrease fatigue in MS. And as you can see here, there's some eligibility requirements, and I meet all of those. So I went through all of that to be sure, but I'm sure my doctor had already thought through all that before I was invited to be part of the study. And then here are some of the study parameters. There's going to be 4 site visits that are up to 2 hours long, and 4 phone calls over a 13-week period. So in other words, I had to find a time when I knew that I'd be able to drive down to Portland, or have my husband drive me down to Portland over a 13-week period, 4 different times. One of the nice things about this particular study is it was fairly flexible when I started. So I did negotiate that we not begin the study until March 15th, because by then I'm hoping the worst of the winter weather will be over. The highway between where we live and Portland is often closed when the weather gets really bad, and it would sort of invalidate the whole study if we weren't able to keep to the schedule. And then I just wanted to point out the contact name and number. I'll also put it in the description box below, because they are actively recruiting for this study right now. And Allison told me that it would be more than fine if I shared this information with others in case other people were interested in the study. So if you happen to be in the Portland area and you meet all the requirements for the study, you can contact Allison at the number that's provided there and become part of the study. You can be recruited into the study. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out to you is that this study, even though it's being sponsored through the Oregon Health Science University by the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, it is listed on the website clinicaltrials.gov. And if you're not already familiar with that site, I recommend that you go check it out if you're at all interested in being involved in clinical trials. As you can see, clinicaltrials.gov is a database of privately and publicly funded clinical studies conducted around the world. And so there's several things here that are important. At first, I was thinking that the clinical trials were only those that had some kind of government sponsorship, and that is not true. They can be privately funded as well as publicly funded. The other thing that's important to know is that it isn't just the United States that we're talking about. It's all around the world. And as we go through the site a little bit, I'll show you how you would find studies if you don't live in the United States. So we'll scroll down a little bit here. And as you can see, for finding a study, you can choose recruiting and not yet recruiting studies, or all studies. And I'm just going to leave it at recruiting. And then I've already filled in here, multiple sclerosis is the condition that I'm looking for. And then other terms, I put fatigue because I know that the study that I'm interested in has to do with fatigue. And I'm in the United States, and the study I know is coming out of Portland, Oregon. So if I hit search, that takes me to a page where it shows the 36 studies that were found for fatigue in Portland, Oregon. And here we go. We can start scrolling down. There's one here that's completed. But if I scroll down to number 2 on the list, I see there's the study that I have enrolled in. So I found that really comforting to know that my study was not only being done by a reputable hospital, but that it was actually listed on clinicaltrials.gov. Well, let's clear most of the fields and just go back out here so I can show you that you can look for studies anywhere. Once again, I just selected recruiting and not yet recruiting studies, and I put multiple sclerosis, but no other terms because I wanted to return as many things as possible. But let's say that I am in, how about Australia? I'm in Australia. I'm going to pick the city of Perth, because I think that will help narrow it down. Australia is kind of a big country, right? Okay. And that you can even put a distance. Like if you're not willing to drive, well, why don't we do that? Let's just say, well, I'm willing to drive 100 miles, but more than that, I wouldn't be willing to. And then if I hit search, now it has returned a page that says that there are 3 studies that are found for multiple sclerosis in Perth. And if I scroll down here, I can see, okay, one's been completed, that one's been completed, and they all have it actually. So at this point, there's nothing that is recruiting that's going on in Perth. But there might well be in other cities, or there might be at some other time. So this is always worth looking at. You can certainly refine the search to match where you live. A state in the United States, or a country, a city within a country. You can limit it to either the condition that you want to find out about, and even right down to the type of intervention that it is. So even if it's not you personally, but a family member who has a condition that you would like to investigate whether there's a clinical trial available that might be useful, you can do that. One last thing that I wanted to tell you about as far as clinical trials go, the very, very best kind are randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. And let me tell you what each of those words means. Randomized means that nobody chooses who goes into which group, who's going to get the medicine and which dose and whatnot. It's all totally random, probably generated through a computer or something. Double blind means that you, the subject, do not know which group you're in, nor do the investigators know which group you're in. It's just kind of all done with the computer so that there's no way anything can be biased, nothing can creep in. And then finally, placebo-controlled means there's a group of people who do not get whatever the intervention is, whether it's a medication or a diet or whatever. Somehow they find a way to have people think that they are participating, but they don't know for sure at what level they are participating. You have to have a placebo group because of the placebo effect. There are folks who psychologically just think that, oh, if this medicine is supposed to make me feel more energetic, somehow I do feel more energetic, whether the medicine actually did any good or not. So they have to be able to correct for that kind of a bias. They do the placebo control in order to do that. And the study that I am participating in is all of those three things. There are studies that do not do all three of those, but as some people say, the gold standard for clinical trials is randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled. So you might want to be looking for that as you sign up for a clinical trial. But I hope that you will look into doing that. I'll let you know how this one turns out. I'm pretty excited because to buy something over the counter that could help with my fatigue, I'd love that. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you again in my next video.